Good morning. You're listening to Drinking Socially, the official Untapped podcast.
Your weekly look into what's happening in the Untapped community and the world of beer.
This very special episode is brought to you by Untapped and the Untapped merch store. Check it out. There's still time to Christmas shop, but let's be honest, you're buying things for yourself, and that's totally fine because you're going to want to drink beer in January. When you do, use the coupon code PODCAST, and you'll get 20% off of everything you purchase. And also, if you want to catch future episodes like this, make sure you're hitting that like button or even subscribing so you can see Harrison's hat evolve throughout the seasons.
Okay, Drinking Socialites. If you're like me, it's about that time after Thanksgiving when you've jumped the shark and are making double-decker turkey sandwiches with slices of pie for bread. And you're desperately looking around for somebody to reach out and pull you back to reality and just save you from yourself. Well, today, that someone is me and John and soon Dan. So I'm asking you to put aside that 3,000 calorie buffet on a plate. Just put it down. Pause your daily viewing of Die Hard and prepare yourself for a different kind of treat. A feast of a show, if you will. As we look towards the very near beer future, we've got a very special guest join us today who came during gifts, 12 to be exact. Dan Lipke, head brewer at Clown Shoes Beer, is on the podcast today. And those 12 gifts, well, they're beer, of course. The 12 beers of Christmas, to be exact. No leaping lords, no ladies dancing or swimming swans in sight. Instead, I'm happy to report that I am spying a breakfast brown ale with espresso. I've got a Belgian quad, a dry hop stout, a mango IPA, and we'll dive into great detail about this today, a cupcake from space. You know what I'm talking about. The now legendary space cake. So Clown Shoes Double IPA. It's really the star of one of Untapped's limited badges running right now, the 12 Beers Christmas badge. The pretty sweet origin story to go along with this over-the-top can art. Sort of bring Dan on in a minute, learn exactly what's going on with this superhero guy on the front, the cake lasers, space, and of course, learn more about the beer that's inside this can too. So go ahead and throw away all your pants without elastic waistbands and get ready to blast the holidays with some space cake. And to start, John, break down the badge for the badge hunters out there so they can know what they need to about how to get it.
Yeah, this one's really easy for everyone in, I'm going to say the whole world. The badge you're going to earn is called the 12 Beers of Christmas, which is a much better way to celebrate, as Harrison alluded to, than Lords Leaping. To earn this badge, all you have to do is check into Clown Shoes Space Cake before December 13th. So if you're planning on doing 12 beers, one every day, you're golden. You won't be able to miss this one. Just check it in before December 13th. And when you do, Untapped will tell you cheers to Space Cake. Did you know that this beer is in Clown Shoes 12 Beers of Christmas? Is that 12 different beers inside of a 12 pack? I think that's what Harrison was asking for Christmas. So really excited to unlock this badge. Harrison, what's coming up?
That's right. So today's one of those special episodes. It's not just going to be John and I guessing about what makes this beer great. We're actually going to talk to the person that made it and learn exactly what makes it so great. So Clown Shoes, they have had a special place in my liver ever since I first heard about them entering the beer scene in New England with Hoppy Feet, a black IPA. Well, I was actually brewing up in New England too, and my first thought was a black IPA. Their intro beer, their flagship beer. This is amazing. And I've followed their moves pretty much ever since. So very exciting for me to welcome today Dan Lipke, head brewer of Clown Shoes. Hey, Dan, welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Excited about Christmas more than normal?
I guess.
We've been, getting ready for Christmas we think about it early these years with these.
I bet. I bet you guys have to for production reasons. Christmas probably starts in July.
Yeah. not quite that late, but we certainly start thinking about it pretty early. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, let's jump in with a beer. Let's crack open some space cake. I'm sure you have some, Dan. I hope John does. Good. There we are. Yeah, that's right. Ooh.
Yeah, Space Cake is kind of the closest thing we have to a flagship. We
Right.
have tons of different beers out there, and we always love doing new things. But Space Cake has been kind of our biggest seller, our biggest hit for a number of years now.
That's fantastic. I know, and really, I love a big part of this origin story is that this is kind of like you guys are really known for like non-traditional IPAs, like Hoppy Feet, like Eagle Claw Fist, and Space makes it's kind of like a new style IPA. It's tough to for me to even categorize it, but it's lower on the bitterness. Can you tell me while we take our first sips, kind of how you landed on Space Cake is going to be this beer? Because it's not like a West Coast, not an East Coast, not it's its own thing almost.
Yeah, we kind of came up with Space Cake when the IPA style was starting to morph, and so originally it was brewing kind of English style IPAs, and then the West Coast IPA that was less about malt and more about bitterness,
right.
And some of the new American hops became big. And then things were starting to kind of change. There were new hop varieties, and people started playing around with kind of taking some of the bitterness out of the IPAs and really pushing forward these tropical fruit flavors from some of the new hop varieties. So we were super psyched to try our own version on it, and so we came up with Space Cake.
Wow. Mm.
I'm prompted to ask, just based on the way you finished that Space Cake intro. I've 100 questions for you, Dan. I hope you've cleared your schedule. First one, what came first, Space Cake the name or Space Cake the recipe?
The recipe came first. So Space Cake was kind of imagined when we found a new hop that was called Mosaic, and it was fairly new to the market,
right.
And we're having a really hard time getting some of the hops that were hot at the time, so hops like Citra or Galaxy,
right.
And so in an effort to kind of try something new so that we could continue to kind of make new IPAs and explore kind of new territories in IPA, we ended up getting into Mosaic hops, and we love the kind of big tropical guava-y flavors,
right.
especially in a higher ABV IPA. So that's kind of how it came about, and then it came kind of an effort to, well, how are we gonna what are we gonna call this new IPA? And the original idea was to name it after our original delivery driver and first sales guy, Mikey.
Okay.
And he was Mikey was a real character. He definitely liked to indulge in marijuana. So they thought it would be funny if they put him on the label to kind of motivate him to sell more beer. And at first they had kind of a dull, a label of him just flying through kind of the clouds with his dog, and they thought that wasn't interesting enough. So Greg,
right.
the original owner, came up with the idea of calling it Space Cake and having him flying through space, being chased by cupcakes shooting lasers. So,
of course,
it's the Clown Shoes brand is really all about having fun and being a bit silly, but then also making really yummy beers. So this is kind of a perfect example of that process in going on.
That's silly, but making delicious beers is that's what I think of when I think of Clown Shoes. Like, I'm going to laugh sometimes when I look at the label, but what's inside is always going to live up to any other beers I could have grabbed off a shelf. And my second question, and then I'll leave it up to Harrison to try and fill in. Your first answer was great. You ticked off a few things I was wondering about already. But my second question, you're talking about guava juice in Mosaic, and there's a little bit of like sweetness, almost like maybe like a little, I don't know, like malty kind of flavor, sweetness that I get in here. Can you kind of walk me through what you think I should be tasting as I take a couple of sips of this beer. Maybe usually a Harrison will do it for me, and it'll help me identify things that I didn't pick up the first time. And since you made this, I feel like you're the best person to ask.
Yes, walk us through it.
Yeah, so I mean, the aroma is mostly that, when I sniff it, I get pineapple guava, and that's Mosaic hops right there. The malt backbone of this beer is really simple. It's just two malts. It's a pale ale malt, and then it's honey malt. And honey malt is a malt that will give you some sweetness, but it doesn't give you the toastiness or the really heavy maltiness of, say, a crystal malt, which is what more traditional IPAs used to have. So it's a fairly straightforward recipe. There's not a lot of, it's really just kind of meant to be a showcase for Mosaic hops, but then you get that kind of nice soft sweetness from the honey malt. So, in more modern, kind of juicy, hazy IPAs, they kind of these days don't even use any honey malt. It's pretty much just, wheat and pale ale malt, and sometimes oats. So
that's right. Yeah, that's a great point. And I remember, man, being a young brewer and lucky to be sitting in the room with Vinny from Russian River, who I feel like I referenced too much in these shows, but whatever. I'm name dropping. I only live once. And I remember him being like, people will always bring me clones of Pliny the Elder, and my most popular critique is too much crystal malt. But I think it was his polite way of saying, like, this is way too sweet and it's too heavy and you've missed the mark. And for young brewers who are maybe trying to get like a higher ABV IPA and just thinking like more malt, more crystal malt, stop and think about honey malt, because it does give you that sweetness. But you're right. It's like it's totally different than like a caramelized malt that is like, maybe more sweet or can be cloying if you just dump too much.
A bit more presence.
Right. I love this. And I also love, so Mosaic is a hop, as you said, like when you guys, but something here, I'm going to back.
Sorry, Harry. You got space cakes for a minute.
Exactly.
Berry flavor. But I do find when they're in double IPAs, like Mosaic totally changes. So can you kind of talk a little bit about just like Mosaic, the hop, what you guys are looking for? You mentioned like in a bigger ABV beer, it kind of shows up a little differently. Can you walk me through that a little bit? Kind of like why is this less blueberry and like more pineapple-y and guava-y?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it's all about the ABV.
Yeah.
Where it seems like at higher ABVs, it really pumps out that kind of tropical note.
Yeah.
We also use it in a lot of our IPAs, but it's usually not showcased as much, and it plays more of a kind of support role to kind of give a great kind of background profile to it. But certainly, we've tried doing kind of lower ABV versions of Space Cake, and they never quite captured that same juiciness that there's something about that high alcohol that really seems to play with hop compounds that really promotes that juiciness.
I love that.
So when we first made it, we in hindsight realized it was cranking out a bit too high at about 10%, so we had to dial it back a bit. And we noticed even just kind of like taking it back that little bit, it definitely went from kind of pure guava to a bit more kind of guava pineapple. So
wow,
it's a super fun thing to play around with, different hops, and it's always keep exploring.
Right.
But I mean, this is also a beer that we've had for a long time, and it's great for that kind of snapshot of a time and place when this is how this was cutting edge at one time. I think these days people find it very accessible, but when it first came out, we thought it was pretty new and different and revolutionary.
Oh yeah.
And a testament that it stuck around for such a long time. We were talking before we started recording. You said this is still Clown Shoe's top selling beer.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it keeps on rolling. We've put out, hazy IPAs and those are really good and people like those as well. But Space Cake seems to kind of really have kind of a special, people pick it up and they try it the first time. They're just like, wow, that's something. It helps that it, really doesn't show it's 9%, because you drink it and it's like, wow, this is easy. I could drink these all night, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
Right, might be a shorter night or a more fun night than you originally planned, and that's okay, especially this time of year.
You guys want to learn more about? Did we already go over the label and?
Let's talk about that. Yeah, that's a great thing to jump to next, because, I mean, the day and age we're living in now, we've kind of all said it already a couple different ways, but like the quality of the beer is so important. But like the first impression on the shelf, getting someone's attention when they're walking down the aisle and they got 1,000 beers to look at, that's like an art and a science and a little bit of magic. And you guys have all that happening on these cans. I mean, this is like, I would print this out and frame it, and people will be like, that's sick. What band is that? Or what crazy comic is that? Like, it has like a crazy story going on here. You mentioned that the original version of this was, right, like Mike flying through the sky. Now we're in space. Give me all the download, Dan. What's going on here? How did we get here? Who was Miracle Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think the artwork was always pretty important from the beginning, but a couple of years in, we hired Michael Axt as our full-time artist.
Right.
And he has, he's as talented an artist as I am a brewer, I guess, because he does some amazing work.
Right.
Awesome kind of graphic art style stuff. This was definitely one of his earlier things, but you still see, it's still so much fun. And he had a great way of kind of capturing Greg's kind of, crazy ideas. And, he told him what he wanted, and bang, he put it on, and it worked perfectly. So you definitely can see his artwork. And it's showcased in, so many more of our beers. And he keeps on, I think, getting better and better. And it's super fun to watch him, continue working.
What a testament to Greg, but also you and Michael, to be able to take the guidance of a maybe crazy person saying, I want you to make an IPA that's never been made before, and then I want it to have a man flying through space. And when I look at the can, I just think that looks really good, and this beer's really good. But I couldn't imagine someone asking me to draw a spaceman fighting cupcake bad guys, and you wouldn't like what you got from me. So I think that's a testament to the talent that you guys it attract at Clown Shoes and keep, because you could looking at all of your beers, they're all so different, but they carry that art style. Have you guys done anything like a comic book? Or, I mean, your website looks beautiful. It's obvious that like art style carries over, but have you done anything like in kind of the storytelling space behind some of your beers?
We did a little bit this year. We did our barrel projects this year, where it's called Kung Fu Ballet. And we were working on having an associated comic book. So it kind of tells the story of this Kung Fu master as he travels, through his story. We need to catch up on the last two articles of that, but no, it's something that we've always talked about doing. But we usually sell, some of you can get some of our labels printed out, I think on our website. It makes awesome art. Michael's, he's such a talent that, I don't know if you guys remember the Undead Party Crasher label.
Yes. Yep.
That was kind of his first kind of classic one. And that one and the associated story was, it's kind of iconic. And that kind of, that was his first home run. And that was one that tells a story of, trademark lawyer, and they're all werewolves and vampires, and the hero who saves it all.
That's right. That's right. He saves them. That's such a cool. Is he the guy is he on the Exorcist label as well?
I don't know if it's supposed to be him in particular. It could be the same character. I don't know if that's what Greg intended, or it's kind of the same idea. It's kind of fantasy inspired.
Right. Very much like Bruce Campbell in the Army of Darkness. I get a lot of without the saw hand, and instead he's got the compound bow or whatever. And this, as you mentioned, on your shop, you can even get them as coasters. So sure, put them on your wall, but also like the Undead Party Crasher coaster is just sitting here screaming to be part of your beer den. So check that out. I mean, right, the art, I say it all the time, broken record, lived in the golden age of beer, and like it's such a complete experience now. Like the beer is great, but the stories behind it, the can art, that art has its own story. I mean, it's you can really nerd out and get lost for like hours. You guys have such a great website too, with like old interviews and breaking down how you guys began, like with some of the original artwork that we were talking about tonight. There is that, you can find that image of Miracle Mike before he was in space, but just flying in the clouds, that kind of the early iteration of this this artwork. You can look at it on your website and learn more about it, which I loved doing that before we spoke today, just learning more about it. The more I can learn about, what the breweries I like are doing, the more I like them, which is kind of like that with anything, right? Like the more you can kind of get down that rabbit hole, you're like, oh, these guys are just like me. They think about superheroes in space and they like double IPAs. This is one and the same. It's like that
really unique trait.
But it's great when it's that accessible. I don't have to go like hunting around online. I can just go to your website and find it. So that was fun for me to nerd out on.
Definitely worth checking out.
This is really opening up nicely. I mean, you're right. It's just like, it's so tropical. And it's like, man, I mean, this is like one of those shower beers where you walk out and you're like, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go out. Whatever's next, I'm game. Let's do whatever you want to do. Just kind of, puts you in a space cake state of mind, whatever that means.
Different things to different people.
But
it's definitely, you said it first and best, Dan, but it's like that 9% isn't the first or second or third thing on my mind as I realize I've already drank 85% of this beer. And it's like, there's none of that like cloying. I get a little bitterness. I get a little bit of sweetness, but there's so much balance in this beer that it doesn't feel like it's kind of filling me up or cloying or staying on my palate very long, which makes me keep going back to it. And if you shower like Harrison does, you're done with your chores by noon. I guess, or
certainly asleep on the couch by noon. We'll see if the chores got done or not. That's of no consequence really to a sleeping man on the couch full of space cake. So we have to create space cake, amazing, but that's really just part of this 12 pack. So if you guys are playing along at home and you're lucky enough to be able to grab one of these, I mean, you got to be kidding me. So John alluded to it, but I made a claim last podcast that the best variety packs are 12 packs where there are at least 6 different kinds of beer in it. So 2 of each, or 6 of each rather. No, 2 of each. Good math. Anyway, regardless of all the math I'm not doing, this is like the only way to beat it is to have 12 different beers, and you guys have done it. And I got to say, I think the average ABV in here is like 8%, which is also amazing that like we're not goofing around here. This will help you through the holidays, however you need it. But I mean, can you talk a little bit about this, Dan, the thought behind it? There's a new beer in here this year as well, right? I think an Imperial Stout with some mandarin oranges.
That one, so this is the second year that we put out this mix pack, the 12 beers of Christmas. We actually it's a different group of beers. So we kept a couple of them. So we have kind of a couple holiday themed beers that we've released over the years. And to a certain extent, we're celebrating our 12th year as a brand this year.
Ooh, cool.
So every year we would come out with, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 different beers. We like to do lots of small market beers, one-offs, special releases, barrel-aged projects. So, over the years, we put out hundreds of different beers. And we get to, for a project like this, kind of select 12 of the, some of the best ones. So this one, there's really a ton of different styles of beer. Lots of different, kind of ABV range. So everything from kind of a crisp ale, to, a brown ale with cold brew coffee added. The Undead Party Crasher with, kind of hints of orange. Exorcist, a dry hop stout. Royal Standard, which is a wee heavy. So it's really, tons of different styles, IPAs, stouts, wee heavies, you name it. Super fun pack.
Hearing you talk through some of the beers that you put in here, one of the things that kind of jumps out at me is I can't say no one else, but it's uncommon for me to find a dry hop stout. I think we can all agree there. So what you guys are doing in this pack are two things. One, 12 different beers in one 12 pack. I'd imagine your packaging guys are not thrilled about that day. And then not are they just like 12, oh, we put a Kolsch and we put a pale ale and we put a like you're doing weird things in a good way, things in here. Right. Is that seems like, I mean, you guys live up to the labels on your beer, but what I want to ask is, like, can you provide some insight into maybe why this isn't a common thing where I don't just go to the store and find a bunch of 12 packs with 12 different beers in them. Right. It's brilliant for the drinking part of me, but
it's not an easy project to pull off. So, brewing 12 beers, within a short time frame, packaging them all, and then having to completely rip them out and package them one by one. People would go insane if they had to do this, 24/7. So luckily, we only torture, our production guys with it, for a month or so a year. The original concept was actually to do a 24 pack, of course, but to do a full on advent calendar. But
maybe in another 12 years for your 24th anniversary, we could,
if we can, we might want to, say we'll do it and then run and hide for, a month.
Harrison will come help you.
Sure, no, we had a plan to do 24, and we decided in the end that was just a bit too much.
Yeah, so, you're right. I mean, that's from my recollection and talking with other brewers, it's the production, like the packaging side of this, where you run into just logistics as well as production. You got to make all these beers and have them taste great when you package them, managing tank space and all that stuff. It must be insane, but to do it for 24 beers, I mean, I'm rooting for you, though. I mean, I know the packaging guys are probably yelling, "Stop, Harrison, you're horrible," but that'd be amazing.
We'll never say never. But.
Right. All right. Never say never. I like that. I'll take that.
But it's a huge hit. People love it. So we're already, planning on doing another one next year. But while you can get it, because it is selling out very fast from what I hear, go out and get one, because it's a super fun pack to try.
Don't sleep on this. This is, like I said, 80% ABV, probably the average. This is not can you find are some of these beers like only available in this 12 pack, or are they also available?
In this pack, the only year-round beer that's in it is Space Cake.
Space Cake. There you go.
Everything else is basically, at this point, a one-off. Some of them were, production beers for, a short period of time.
Right.
We brewed, basically 12 separate, beers one-offs, and put them all in this pack. So,
okay. Now I'll ask a tough question. Can you pick? Maybe I'll make it an easier question. Dan, is there a favorite in this pack? Is there one you were excited to make? Is there one you were excited to drink? Give me some of your highlights so I can kind of, as I'm drinking them, think about, Dan said, this one was impossible or whatever.
Yeah.
Give me the backstory.
One of my favorites is Reindeer Games, which we call a Bavarian IPA.
I love it.
Really, it's kind of a mix of Dunkel lager malt base, and then we dry hopped it with, I want to say, Mandarina Bavaria.
Nice.
So it's kind of a hybrid style. We love doing that. We're playing with kind of traditional styles, but then having our own take on it. So you'll probably recognize that kind of Munich malt, malty base,
nice.
Toasty, slightly darker, but then with some hop that's certainly not crazily hop, but for that style, it's pretty big. That's a super fun one to try just because it's pretty unique. Yeah. And then Royal Standard, I have to call out because the label art talks about my family's history as Scottish warlord. So that's always a fun one.
Wait a minute, we're just getting towards the end of this interview, and we learned that you come from Scottish warlords.
It's small part of my heritage was some bloodthirsty Scottish clan who like to slay their neighbors. So we won't go too far into detail.
Amazing.
Things got a little crazy 500 years ago.
Right, yeah. The statute of limitations has expired, but now it's just history.
It was much harder to go buy a 12-pack of 12 different beers back then. You were angry. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what it was. I get it.
It's Dan, you're welcome on the podcast. We do this every Wednesday. I'd like to see you back here every Wednesday and get more into Scottish war history and brewing advice. There's so many things you guys are doing, like with that Bavarian IPA, where you're kind of taking familiar things but just doing them differently. And I think that takes a lot. You got to recognize it takes so much skill to do and pull that off. And I think if you're familiar with Clown Shoes, you owe it to yourself to go visit. As Dan said, you guys are doing like kind of these small batch one-offs and barrel aged stuff in the brewery. Is that a pretty regular thing where I could maybe walk in there and find a Clown Shoes beer that I'll maybe never see again?
Yeah, I mean, we love doing lots of small projects, certainly at the brewery. We've got a great series going with Hannaford's right now that celebrates, kind of frontline workers, called Circle of Heroes. We do tons of small projects, and it's always super fun to work with, groups of people, especially if it's for a good cause. And, we continue to do tons of monthly releases. Next month will be 12 Color Rainbow, which is our 12th anniversary beer. It's actually a West Coast IPA, so we're kind of going old school a bit on the IPA. But then we're adding some dank and stormy hop soil. So, of course, having our own fun with it. So, lots of nice diesel notes from the hop soil. You can imagine what it smells like.
Yes.
We kind of went straight to the but it's all, perfectly legal. It's merely hops.
That's it.
And also right now, our barrel release is called Snow on the Maple Tree. That is an imperial stout aged in maple bourbon barrels. And if you've never had it before, I highly recommend it. It's very delicious. Obviously, tons of maple notes. So lots of fun beers all the time.
Wow.
Harrison's gaining pounds and switching into his elastic pants as you roll through that description. I'm imagining just pouring it over pancakes and saying Happy Christmas.
Good breakfast beer.
I know. I love it. I love the names. I love the artwork. I love that there's 12 different beers in this 12 pack. That was easier to math to do. And I mean, this has been awesome, Dan. I feel like I'm just excited to keep drinking all these beers and know that each one's going to be different. And really, there's some of espresso in it. That the barista is going to be perfect. That's like, after maybe Christmas morning, because Christmas Eve was a little bit too much, you're grabbing the barista and you're back in the game. Like, there's a lot to love here for every time of day, every part of the season. And I'm just excited to have it right here. I'm going to try not to drink it all tonight. I won't drink it all tonight. That's possible and dangerous. But it definitely will be tough to, when I reach in the fridge, not grab one of these. And that's like the best mark of any beer, but also any variety pack, is you can't wait to see what's next. And that's happening here. So thank you for doing this. And thank you to your packaging team for just making it happen, because this is no easy feat. There is no machine that goes and picks 12 different beers and puts them in a box. Those are humans doing that. For hat off to you guys. We haven't gotten there yet with technology. I don't think we ever will, but I don't need to. Although maybe for the 48 pack and
I'm sure
we'll have to figure that out.
The suitcase mixed back of beers at some point, yes.
Just total random draws. It's 16 pounds of beer. You get what you get.
Good luck. Right. Bring your friend to pick it up.
Dan, officially from Harrison and I and the Drinking Socially community, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast to talk about Clown Shoes, your beer, your brewery, your Warlord history, and this 12-pack. And thanks for helping anybody that drinks Space Cake. Again, you'll be able to earn the 12 Beers of Christmas badge. Check it in on Untappd before December 13th. If your family is part of Scottish history, maybe reach out to Dan. No. But one thing you can do is go to the Clown Shoes website and check out their beer finder. You may be able to find one more of these or your first one on the shelf right from their website. So if you can't find it, go to your grocery store and look. It's probably there. But if you can't find it, go to Clown Shoes website and do some proper technological research. And Dan updates that every day. He's updating the website. He's calling the stores to see if it's still on a shelf. We want to make sure you can still get some of this beer, because it's going to make Christmas a little easier this year.
Whew, yes. And that third or fourth or seventh viewing of Die Hard, I've got it all picked out, got it all laid out. Goes well with a pumpkin pie sandwich. But thank you, Dan. I really appreciate you being here this evening. Cheers to you. Cheers to all the Space Cake heads out there. You know who you are. One in every family. When he shows up at dinner this year, hand him a Space Cake out of the 12-pack. Just make sure you check in it yourself to get a badge.
Yeah. Share it with him.
Oh, I love it.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks again, Dan. Cheers.
Thank you, Dan. Have a good night.
You too.
All right. That was so cool, talking with the man himself. I feel like we could have a lot of fun with Dan anywhere. Bar, at a 9-hour-long podcast, behind stage at some concerts. Dan knows what's going on. Yeah,
the podcast is 33% less right now, but it feels 50% less good.
That sounds like Harrison math.
Yeah, it works the same, I guess, if you're time traveling. But that was amazing. It's always, I think, I'm a beer nerd. You all know this about me. I'm a nerd overall, but it's amazing to be able to talk to the minds that put these things together, that Harrison and I and you all drink and talk about and share with each other. So, Harrison, we're already almost done with Space Cake, but I think we owe it to the Drinking Socially podcast to run down the spec sheet on this as Untappd sees it. Do you have those details?
Oh, I do. Yes. Everyone playing at home, we can't miss this. So this is Space Cake. So it's an Imperial IPA, 9% ABV, about 50 IBUs, but as you all know, who cares about IBUs? Obviously, Dan gave us the behind the scenes look at this, but from Clown Shoes themselves, here's the story of Space Cake. Being pursued by a giant assortment of laser-equipped cupcake spaceships is many things, but it is certainly no time to panic. Miracle Mike and his galactic canine Bionic have been through far worse, and they always seem to find a way past the relentless pursuit of the Space Cake Fleet. This double IPA features robust hop aromas that carry through to the strong, juicy flavors of tropical citrus. A sweet and strong malt backbone pairs with a subtle booziness to make Space Cake an approachable dippa fit for an extraterrestrial odyssey. I feel inspired. I feel ready to blast off and laser cupcakes, regular cupcakes. I'm ready. I feel it's working. I've got the Space Cake juice in my veins. We're doing it.
It's been a while since we drank a 9%er, and it's been a while since I've drank one so quickly. Delicious beer, but I'm equally as enamored with Miracle Mike and his journey and the lore that they put around this beer in a world where there's probably 40 new breweries that have opened up since we started recording this podcast tonight. I love that now I'm just like, oh yeah, Space Cake, that's a good IPA that I can pick up anytime I see it. I know it's going to make me happy, but also I feel kind of endeared to Bionic. I love dogs, and I assume that the Clown Shoes team does because they bothered to create a space dog companion. So I think Dan needs to come back on the show maybe next year and update us on Bionic. Maybe we do like a charitable dog beer, or just talk about dogs. That's all right. I'll edit that out. Yeah,
that's good. No, I like that. We talk about dogs and space and whatever we want, beer, cartoons, and let's talk about venues as well, like verified ones, because you have a pretty cool one this week that we're featuring that is directly related to Clown Shoes. If you're at home going, I live in Boston, or I live near Boston, I want to go hang out with the Clown Shoes guys and go drink some Clown Shoes beers myself, you
better get your T card ready.
Yeah, that's right. Sure, right. Sure. And you're going to head over to Harpoon Brewery. So if you're thinking, wait, what? Why Harpoon? So if you don't know, the kind of parent company, I guess we'll call it, Mass Bay Brewing Company, owns Harpoon, UFO, Clown Shoes as well. So you can go to Harpoon's locations, they have 2 of them, and drink a ton of Clown Shoes beer, which is great. So now mystery solved, you know where to head to. And of course, Harpoon's a verified venue. So if you go to their Boston location, they've got a ton of Clown Shoes on tap right now, as well as some UFO beers, some Harpoon's classics, but as well as Catamount, which is another cool brewery I learned about. They do a porter that a lot of people on tap were talking about. It sounded pretty cool. But I mean, yeah, Harpoon, obviously pretty legendary, first brewery license in the state of Massachusetts, 001, sitting on their wall somewhere. I assume, or maybe probably in a secure safe by now.
Hopefully,
that's pretty cool.
Facsimile on the wall.
Right, but this is the spot. So they have like a really cool menu. They've got pretzels and burgers and all that fun stuff. And excitedly, I discovered that brewery tours are back, so you can get a little look behind the scenes. But you saw a couple other things about Harpoon's Boston location that were pretty cool. Did you not, John?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Boston, as everyone knows. For the last 6 months before that, I had issues with the city, but turns out once I visited, I became a huge fan. Big tea guy. Love the fact that I can get anywhere in the city for basically no dollars and no effort. Boston's transit is amazing. This has nothing to do with Harpoon Brewery. Although you're going to need to use the tea to get there and to get home, because you'll probably drink. And when you get there in the winter, you'll be able to go to their beer hall and go to their movie nights, which probably good if you have kids. Definitely good if you don't have kids. Just good if you're a human. Go to Harpoon, get more beers than you can fit in your own fridge. Coming up, I think they're doing Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and more importantly, Gremlins, which is actually a Christmas movie. There's a lot of life lessons in there. And you can sit at Harpoon, you can drink a flight of beer while watching a movie. These are things that you can't do at home. And that's why if you have a free afternoon this winter in Boston, put your Helly Hansen coat on, get on the tea, and check out Harpoon, grab some beer.
I know. Gremlins, classic. That's the movie my kids want to watch every Christmas. So that tells you how great of a parent I am, that I have a bunch of little kids asking to watch Gremlins. But it's a classic.
It's good. It's about following the rules, right? Don't microwave them. Don't feed them after midnight. Don't let them go swimming. It's a movie that establishes what happens if you don't follow the rules. I wonder if Clown Shoes has ever seen Gremlins, because it feels like they just find the rules to break them.
I know, right? Exactly. But right now, as of recording, it looks like Space Cake's on tap, obviously, but Bubble Farm, one of the American IPAs, their Mango Kolsch, and Exorcism at Sunset, all from Clown Shoes, which is a double, rather imperial stout. So yeah, Flight of Clown Shoes, bunch of Harpoon, eat some burgers, have a good time, and yeah, now you can watch Gremlins while you're at it too. Speaking of Gremlins, or great things, which Gremlins are, as long as you don't pour water on them or feed them after midnight. I'm going to ask you a different question, John, about something else great, like the beer you had this week.
His name was Mowgli.
Or the best.
I often get him confused with the protagonist from Jungle Book.
The Mogwai, when they're furry, Gremlins when they're wet and full. The magic that happens, it creates transformation. I mean, you see it in the movie. I love that movie. Although I will tell you that, never mind. There's that bar scene when they're ripping stuff down, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer. That's a tough one to explain to a 6-year-old. Of like, well, there's nothing to learn from this. Just forget everything you're seeing. This is just silly stuff. And every year I get a side eye from the missus that I pretend to ignore. But anyway, let's talk about the best beer of the week, John, which next week mine will probably be out of this 12 pack. But
yeah.
Let's look back at this past week. What did you enjoy that was like, whoa, this thing stood out. This beer was awesome.
Okay, so beers that I've already consumed. The best beer that I had last week, Double Shot from Treehouse Brewing. It's not an IPA. I know, Treehouse, but it's not an IPA, and that's the reason I think I was so taken back by it. It should be obvious by now that I love coffee. It's like what you drink before you can have beer. And it's kind of a ritual for me. Like I'm measuring out my coffee in grams, and I'm looking at the temperature of the water. And I feel like drinking that stout from Treehouse, that they cared as much about the coffee flavor that went into that beer as anything else. So cheers to you for making a stout that rivals your double dry hopped reputation. Double Shot from Treehouse. What about you, Harrison?
We kind of had quite the New England week. You're enjoying Treehouse last week. We just had Dan and I were talking about Clown Shoes, talking about Harpoon. And my best beer of the week last week came from Back East Brewing Company in Connecticut. So a little farther south in Bloomfield, Connecticut. But I got my hands on their Double Scoop, which is an IPA, a Citra only, so single hop Citra double IPA. It was awesome. And I know that's, sure it was. Harrison says double hop Citra IPA. Of course it was great. But like this one, I was like, holy guacamole. I had an expectation of it being like this good, and it went above that, knocked it out of the water or the park or whatever that saying is, sports. It was very good. And it's part of like kind of their series. There's a beer called Ice Cream Man that I first heard about. That's like a single IPA. So just a regular IPA with all Citra. This is the double version. I think there's a triple called Triple Scoop. So you can go and enjoy a variety of Citra-only IPAs from Back East. I grabbed Double Scoop, and now I have a mission that'll be tough to complete being down here in North Carolina to get the other two out of this Scoop series sometime. So keep tuned in for that. But for now, I'll just live those little Double Scoop memories will have to power me through until that day.
At least you hit the middle, right? Sounds like there was, so you hit the middle. I don't know if that makes you feel any better, and it really doesn't carry any weight, but
it makes you feel a little better because you're saying that.
So you got the middle, and if you can't get their single Ice Cream Man, Tom Waits sang a song called Ice Cream Man. He did a pretty good job. So, maybe that'll hold you over. So thanks again for listening to this episode of Drinking Socially. We got to meet with Dan, the head brewer for all the beers at Clown Shoes. He was on the podcast. We drank cupcakes from outer space without having to sit next to William Shatner or Elon Musk.
Right.
We got 11 more beers of Christmas to get through. So if you also were fortunate enough to grab one of these 12 packs, yeah, follow Harrison and I. Don't follow Harrison and I. That's silly. Add us as friends on Untappd.
Come to my house.
Follow Harrison as he goes grocery shopping, and add Harry Beard or Drinking with John on Untappd. In that way, you know, I always like to see what other people think of the beers I'm drinking, and you can pretty much guarantee we'll be getting through these sometime in or around the December month. And also follow Untappd so that you can see future episodes like this. Check Untappd out on Twitter if you're a Twitter person, Instagram if you like pictures, or YouTube if you like pictures that move with sound. I'm done here, Harrison. What's coming up next week?
So next week, we're going to be hanging out with Halftime Beverage, the guys that were at halftime, talking about some crisp beers to end the year in a sweet contest that Halftime and Hop Culture are running that you, not you, John, maybe you, but you out there, people, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. Probably not. I don't think we can win it. But you out there, you guys could win this. It's Hop Culture and Halftime Beer Meme Awards. We just posted about this today. Untappd did on their social media. So go ahead, if you are listening to this the day it came out, check out our most recent post. You'll learn more about what the heck the Beer Meme Awards are, and even more about it next week. We sit down with Halftime, drink some lagers, and talk about what the heck it is to be a meme and how memes work and why I'm not one, what an NFT is. No, I won't talk about that. I don't care about that. Maybe I do. We'll see.
You're memeable, though, Harrison. You could be a meme.
Maybe I will be someday. Is that a legacy you want? I guess that's almost better than a statue, less better. I don't know. What's going to survive the media, the statue or the internet? I don't know. Right. What lasts longer? Well, I guess it depends where the meteor hits. Anyway, that's what's next week. That's what I got for us, John.
Until then, my friend.
Cheers!
Cheers to statues.
Just a little bit left. Just a wee bit.